This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game.
Move on, Joe.
Hey, Spadoni, shut up. We're back. Quick one-day hiatus. Had a tummy ache, but we're back, baby. Better than ever. Ready to go. Locked and loaded for the next hour. You got me here, Joe Spadoni. It's the Pregame Show. We got a lot to get into. Yesterday was just a banner day at 95.7 The Game. It was great. We had Sam Darnold reaction. He wet the bed in prime time in the playoffs. Are any of you really surprised? I'm not. Did he cost himself a lot of money? Sure. Is he still going to make a lot of money? Yes. Is he going to be the 49ers quarterback of the future? Hell no. Stop. Full stop right there. Then you got the Warriors, who just lost to probably the worst team in the NBA.
Stop!
Yeah. It's not a good time. You pizza when you shoot a french fry, you're going to have a bad time. And right now, we're having a bad time in regards to the Golden State Warriors. As my computer shuts off, or I don't know what it's doing. This computer, I gotta tell you what. My computer is like, I'm even talking about how bad the Warriors are, and my computer's shutting down. That tells you all you need to know right there. Just talking about the Dubs, bad things are going to happen in your life. Bad things. I'm feeling good, even though it's a Tuesday. Actually, it's not a Tuesday. See? It's a Wednesday. Actually, all of a sudden, I'm feeling better. It's a hump day.
It's actually news to me. I thought it was Tuesday.
It felt like, right? Which is the worst
really
day of the
excited
week.
for Bally today. Oh, wait a minute.
No. I'm excited for Anthony Slater, though, today, 8:30, morning roast.
Like a mashed potatoes guy.
Steve Weish, NFL Network, also joining the morning roast. And they're going to ask Anthony Slater about some of the comments Steve Kerr made yesterday on Willard and Dibbs. And again, you can find that entire interview on YouTube or download the Odyssey app. It is free. It is real. It is spectacular. So do that as you also join in the conversation this morning. If you're just getting off work, getting ready for school, I appreciate you joining the conversation. 888-957-9570. That's the number to call or text. The text line's always open. 888-957-9570. Okay. So my computer, now the search engine's not working anyways, but that's fine because I have a cellular device that works just fine. All right. Dubs T-Wolves tonight, 6:30 tip, 5:30 Warriors live right here on 95.7 The Game. You're home for Golden State Warriors basketball. They just came off a horrific defeat against the Toronto Raptors, who again can't win anywhere else but home. So they had a shot to win it just heading into the game, and they did. 104-101 the final. It just, we all kind of felt at the start of the season, prior to that 12-3 start, this is not going to be a championship or bust season. And I'm not saying it is anymore. I'm not saying it ever was. But I understand fans' frustrations in regards to this. If we're not contending for a championship, whether it's the Super Bowl, whether it's the World Series, whether it's the NBA Finals, if we're not competing in any of those, and we're not going to be serious contenders, the worst place you could be is average. You're not good enough to get a top guy in the draft coming up. You're not bad enough, I should say, or you're not good enough. Like, you're in this zone, shout out Tony in Oakland, that you don't want to be in. And it's not the Twilight Zone. It's the zone of mid, average, mediocre, meh. Steph Curry spoke upon that a couple weeks ago. He said, what do the kids say, mid? Yeah, well, that's what we say, Steph. Oh, Steph is only like a couple years older than me. So maybe I'm getting old. I don't know. But this is what Steve Kerr had to say yesterday in regards to the biggest difference. And we're going to play a couple of them here because it was a tremendous interview. Again, if you missed any of it, you can find it in its entirety on our YouTube page. Search 95.7 The Game, like and subscribe there, or download the Odyssey app. Here is the first thing he had to say in regards to the biggest difference from the 12-3 start to now in the past 24 games, they're 7-17.
Well, I think we were generating a much better pace to the game. Our defense was elite. I think it's been fine over the last month, but not elite. And I think our identity, that first 15-game stretch, was that we were feisty and we were fast. And, we're talking about that every day, about the need to get the ball in quickly, made or miss, to get it up the floor, to really push the pace. But we just haven't been able to generate that same kind of pace that we had early in the year.
It's a great word to come back to, identity. And shout out The Office. Identity theft is not a joke. And we used that word a lot for the 49ers this past year. What is the identity of this team? We knew what it was because they were just in the Super Bowl. They're a hard-hitting team. They're physical. They are fast on offense. And they got talent galore. And they're going to lean on all of that. They get a lead, they're going to try to sit on it. They're not built for shootouts, but if they get a lead, they are built to keep it. They got a lead, they couldn't keep it. There are injuries, there are other things that happened. You're also going up against maybe the greatest quarterback of all time, Patrick Mahomes. So, you know what the 49ers' identity is when things are going right health-wise. You can point to the injuries, you can point to a multitude of things this past year on why that identity never came to fruition. The identity of the 49ers this past year was a team that was sloppy in many facets of the game. Very sloppy. You can say the same about the Warriors this season. What is their identity? Pray Steph has a good game? It's not an offensive identity, which is, again, it's just crazy to see a Golden State Warriors team led by Stephen Curry not be able to break through 100 points consistently. They had to scratch and claw for 101 points the other night. Prior to that, 3 of their last 4 losses couldn't even break 100. The identity of this team needs to shift. And how does that happen? Well, first and foremost, they need the talent. And they need the bodies. Not having Jonathan Kuminga has been a huge blow. But even with Kuminga, I would challenge Warriors fans to tell me what the identity of this team is. Because I do think they have an identity crisis at the moment. And they're not unique to this situation. You know, I look at a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. For the longest time, we knew what their identity was. Physical, smash mouth, run the football. You know, later years of Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown, they would throw it, try to dice you up. They had Le'Veon Bell. And they're going to try to run the ball first and foremost in that division against the Ravens, against the Bengals, against the Browns, AFC North, smash mouth football. But within the last decade, in a couple of Roethlisberger years, they have been reaching and searching for a quarterback. And they do these stopgaps, they do these Band-Aids, and that's good enough if you got the culture established that Mike Tomlin does, and that's good enough to get you to the first round of the playoffs. And that's about it. Maybe the Warriors are good enough, once everyone gets healthy, to get into the first round of the playoffs. Maybe. But that's about it. There needs to be some sort of change. Whether that's in the identity, whether that's in the player personnel, something. And I think that's where a lot of fans are at 888-957-9570. This is the cut from Steve Kerr that I really wanted to react to, though. This is him on with Willard and Dibbs yesterday, talking about Steph, Draymond, and himself in the future of the Warriors organization.
We've talked about this. The three of us have been been together for so long. We have these kind of conversations, and I'm so impressed with these guys and how much they care about the Warriors and the future of the Warriors. I think you're right. I mean, a lot of players in their situations would be saying, screw that. Let's trade everything. But that's not who they are. They're Warriors for life. That's part of the meaning of having a player who's only on one team for his entire existence. You see Dirk Nowitzki now watching Dallas games, like he's on the sidelines like a fan, and that's really cool. I love that. And I think that's how Steph and Draymond are going to be once they're retired.
We kind of see the writing on the wall a little bit, right? We got probably 2 years, maybe 3 years left of this. And I think fans are realizing, and Steve Kerr, Steph, and Draymond, they all seem to realize, we're not going to sacrifice the future for the now. That wouldn't be fair to the future Warriors teams. I don't know how I feel about that. When Steve Kerr, and I can't fault him for this, this kind of thinking. It's very forward thinking. It's very Steve Kerr. It's very progressive. It's very, I can't, screw the future for the now. But when he says we're just in a really unique spot, in a really difficult situation, no one's fault. Steph and Draymond and I have talked about it together. It just would be so irresponsible for this franchise to trade away everything for one final swing at a title. Would it be irresponsible for the Warriors to take a big swing prior to the trade deadline and sacrifice the future for this year and next year, let's say? Would that be irresponsible? I don't know if I could say that. You're trying to win a title still if you make that argument. You're doing everything you possibly can to get Stephen Curry in a position to possibly win another championship. If that is what you were saying you were doing, I don't think that's irresponsible. To hell with what happens after that. You know what? You tried to maximize it. You put all your cards on the table. It didn't pay off. Well, we're going to suck for the next few years, but you're going to... I don't think people want to hear this. You're going to stink anyways after Steph. You're not going to be great. You're just not. That's what happens when you lose superstars. What happened to the Lakers after they lost Kobe. That's what happened to the Chicago Bulls after they lost Michael Jordan. That's what happens. Some of the Boston Celtics, they stunk. After Paul Pierce, after KG, after Ray Allen, they weren't good. The Miami Heat were not great post LeBron. But those teams, within a few years, got back into the picture. They stunk for a little bit, and that's not fun, but them's the breaks. I'm sorry. So, no, I don't think it'd be irresponsible to go all in this season. I don't. You can say, sure, and maybe it's not this season. Maybe it's the summer. Maybe it's the summer. But from what I'm gathering, from just the comments from Steve Kerr, from Mike Dunleavy, from everyone, they're not looking to do anything big time. They're not. And it's just, it felt like they were in that mindset this past summer. They had the blueprint for a Paul George trade. It didn't end up going through. They were linked to Lauri Markkanen. Was that ever going to be close? I don't know. Danny Ainge ever seriously thought about trading him? They were in all these conversations. And just 6 months later, those are all gone? You don't feel that same way anymore? After your game below 500? And you're an average team? I just have a very hard time, if I'm a fan right now, figuring out the direction of this team. It's frustrating. And I just know in sports, doesn't matter if it's the Giants who have been, again, average the last few seasons. Were the Giants fun to watch the last few seasons? No. They're an average team. Like those Jeff Fisher-led Rams teams. Yeah, they could have an upset here and there, but they're average. This Warriors team, same thing. Here's more from Steve Kerr on why he doesn't think Steph Curry will ever ask for a trade.
I don't think so. I just think Steph loves the Warriors. He loves the idea of being a Warrior for life. I think that's so meaningful for him. He has no intention of doing. That's what makes him unique and different. It's why he's not asking the organization to trade everything to go get him help. Steph is so special in so many different ways, and his self-awareness is just incredible. It's so meaningful for him to be a Warrior. I don't think our fans have to ever worry about that.
Well, they're not worrying about that. They're worrying that their superstar isn't being a little bit more selfish than he could be. I think that's where a lot of the fans are at. You know, I spoke about this, I think, a year or two ago. I think it was both Evan and I were filling in for Steiny and Guru. And, you know, we were talking and I was like, I think Steph should be a little bit more selfish. I think he can learn a thing or two about LeBron James. And, force the organization hand to make a difficult choice sometimes. I'm not here to say that, not asking for a trade or anything like that. But I do think that this organization of Mike Dunleavy and Joe Lacob could have, a little bit more pressure on them. Oh, you don't think there's a lot of pressure on them? No, I don't. I don't. I think if your head coach and your best player and your second best player and your GM are all telling you, I think we're okay right now. I don't think any big moves are on the horizon. Yeah. They're telling you everything's hunky-dory. It's fine. It's great. I mean, they're telling you that the status quo is going to keep going and that nothing big is going to change. And that's frustrating to listen to. So, if anything, I do think it's a little irresponsible to just keep doing what you're doing right now, which is losing to bad teams. 7-17 in your last 24 games. After starting out 12-3. I mean, is there not much else the Warriors can do this season? Well, Tim Kawakami, one of our Odyssey NBA insiders. He's not an NBA insider. We'll just call him an Odyssey a friend. How about that? And also of the SF Standard. Tim Kawakami, TK, on why there's not much the Warriors can do about this season.
I don't know what practically they can do beneficially other than just try to be as good as they could this year. It's not going to be great. And then make sure they don't blow it for some big move if it's there next offseason. That's where this is, again, fans really don't like to hear that. And that's okay. I get it. It's not great right now. But what you don't want to do is sacrifice the possibility of something bigger, or that Jonathan Kuminga just turns into that something bigger. I don't know if that's going to happen, but there's a possibility of that. You don't want to sacrifice that for a marginal improvement this season. And I don't see anything out there other than marginal improvements.
Well, then why not? And I wonder if this gets to a point at a certain point of the season where they see, like, all right, well, we're 5 or 6 games below the play-in scenario. Let's blow it up. Or not blow it up, but let's just sit guys and just let's be bad and take our chances in the lottery. They might do that. And that, honestly, might be the best course of action. If they are 3 or 4 games below 500 and they're just closer to being out of the play-in scenario than in, you might want to start thinking about that. Now, it's January 15th. Got a couple weeks to go before the NBA trade deadline. We'll see where things shake out. And again, the Warriors play the Grizzlies. Check that. The Timberwolves. Wrong animal. Tonight. And that's going to be right here on 95.7 The Game. Warriors are in Minnesota. Coverage of that starts at 5:30 with Warriors Live and 6:30 tip with the voice of your Golden State Warriors, Tim Roy, before coming back on Saturday, taking on Jordan Poole in the Washington Wizards. Oh, and by the way, Monday, they're playing the defending champs. Cannot wait for that. What's that? What's on Monday? It's a holiday, right? What's Monday, Sam? It's a holiday? My calendar's all over the place. Just the last 6 months. Unless it's Christmas, I don't know what day we're at. And yeah, it includes Valentine's Day, Easter, maybe my even birthday. I don't even remember that anymore. Is that MLK Day? Or is that? Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. Look at me. See? I was right. I was wondering why they were playing 2 o'clock against the defending champs. And now I know. More from Steve Kerr yesterday, again with Willard and Dibbs. And Tim Kawakami also joined Willard and Dibbs as well. Find that entire interview on YouTube or on the free Odyssey app. Steve Kerr, again, says it's not time to push all the chips in, quote, on the decline.
This does not feel like a time, in my estimation, I think in Mike's and Steph's and Draymond's, where you just you push all the chips in the middle and take a wild swing. That would be so irresponsible. So we're aware of that, but what does that mean? It means we are where we are. We're in the middle of the pack with a bunch of teams that are either good enough or not good enough, and we have to find out if we are. And by good enough, that means, can you climb your way into the playoffs and give yourself a chance? And that's what we're trying to do.
888-957-9570. Would it be irresponsible for the Warriors to take some big swings prior to the trade deadline? What does that look like? I don't know. Zion Williamson, going after a guy like that. Would that be irresponsible? Going after and getting a package deal of a Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. Would that be irresponsible? Jimmy Butler, I think, would be irresponsible. Or would it be, a risk that could pay off? 888-957-9570. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, all powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Go ahead and search any of those platforms. Like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. Plus, be sure to check out that free Odyssey app. Again, did I mention it's free? It's free. You could download it, and thousands of other stations are there at your fingertips. It is real. It is spectacular. All right. I want to pivot a little bit to the 49ers because I didn't have a chance to react to yesterday and on Monday night's game between the Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. Listen, I was never a big believer in the Sam Darnold, being a future, legit quarterback, whether I was in the NFC or the AFC. Can he win you some games? I think he proved that this season. Can he do some good things? Yeah, sure. But can he beat the big boys in the big moments? I was skeptical. I was really skeptical. And, Carter, producer Carter here at 95.7 The Game was filling in behind the glass Monday on Steiny and Goo. And we were talking. He's like, man, I don't know. And he was going through his bets. He was going through any action on this game. I was like, you know what? Sometimes it's easy to do this. Take the better quarterback. Take the better quarterback team. Now, it's not always the case, but in that one, when it was the Vikings, when it was the Rams, take the better quarterback. And without a shadow of a doubt, Matt Stafford's a better quarterback. He might be a borderline Hall of Famer. And he's got Puka Nacua, he's got Cooper Kupp, he's got Kyron Williams, and he's got a Super Bowl head coach in Sean McVay. Now, I like Kevin O'Connell. He's not Sean McVay. Worked for Sean McVay. He's not Sean McVay. I liked Sam Darnold's story this season. I thought it was a cool story. He's not Matt Stafford. I like Aaron Jones. He's a pretty good running back. Kyron Williams is better. Now, Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver in the NFL. But I'll take the combination of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua over Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. That might be a hot take. I would take TJ Hawkinson over Tyler Higbee, but Higbee goes hurt, so I don't. But you get where I'm going here. Rams are just a better team. Now, throughout the entirety of the regular season, were they? No, but things changed in the playoffs. Like the Texans were getting no love heading into that game against the Chargers. And what happened? Texans blew them out. Because DeMeco Ryans knows what it takes in the playoff time. Why? Well, he had experience last year as a head coach, but also as defensive coordinator in San Francisco. Just think of what he did. Think of what he's done for the 49ers. Whether it was Green Bay and that performance he had against Aaron Rodgers in the cold when they got the special teams touchdown, it's all they needed. DeMeco Ryans for real, man. And Sam Darnold, we'll see. Who pays him? Who's going to overpay for him? Maybe they franchise tag him and say, you know what, Sam? JJ McCarthy's rehabbing. We think we want you back for another year. Let's run it back. That might be his best case scenario for everyone. Or does he go somewhere else and feel like he can be the future there? I'm not sure. There's a team like the Browns, team like Vegas, one of those squads, the Titans. Maybe. I think it's in the best interest of Sam Darnold and the Vikings to run it back one more year, probably. With JJ, taking over if he needs to. All right, we're up against it. We're going to take one quick break. Come on back. One segment down, two more to go. 888-957-9570. Chris in San Jose, I see you. I'll get to you on the other side. He has some Warriors thoughts. We'll take more of your Warriors thoughts. Is it irresponsible for the Warriors to make a big move right now? That's what Steve Kerr thinks. Do you think that? 888-957-9570 is the pregame show. Joe Spadoni rolls on 95.7 The Game.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
Thank you, Andrew Wiggins. Appreciate that rejoin. 1 segment down, 2 minutes to go here on the pregame show. Bonte and Chasky at the top of the hour. As Andrew Wiggins, in his last game against the Toronto Raptors, actually shot it pretty well. 20 points for him. I'm going to need more. That's just, I'm going to need more. We talked about that on Monday. That's the guy that needs to be stepping up. Andrew Wiggins. If this team is going to try to do something, I don't know what something is, but something to get on a run here. And that just kind of feels like I'm punching at air if I even say something like that. That's why I kind of, roll my eyes a little bit when I hear it would be irresponsible for this Warriors team to, make a big deal right now. It wouldn't be fair to the future of the team. This is what, again, Steve Kerr had to say in regards to that yesterday on Willard and Dibs.
This does not feel like a time, in my estimation, I think in Mike's and Steph's and Draymond's, where you just you push all the chips in the middle and take a wild swing. That would be so irresponsible. So we're aware of that, but what does that mean? It means we are where we are. We're in the middle of the pack with a bunch of teams that are either good enough or not good enough, and we have to find out if we are. And by good enough, that means, can you climb your way into the playoffs and give yourself a chance? And that's what we're trying to do.
888-957-9570. Would it be irresponsible, as Steve Kerr says, if this Warriors team were to make a big move right now? Chris is in San Jose. He has thoughts. What's going on, Chris? You're on the pregame show.
Hey, Spadoni. Happy New Year, my guy. Yeah, it'd be utterly irresponsible. If you can, this it's kind of funny. I keep hearing callers throughout the weeks, and the people that quote unquote want to make a big swing are also the people who are like completely out of touch with how it works. They're like, oh, let me give you a bag of chips and you give me like $1,000. I mean, these are like the equivalent of the trades they're coming up with, trading trash for Butler or, wagering the future in Kuminga for Butler. No, they're 7-17 in their last 24 games. What they need to do, if they're not, because they're not going to unceremoniously tank with Draymond and Curry on their roster. But the reality is they're tanking without trying. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA over the last month and a half. They're looking at right now. They're sitting in the lottery. I don't care about Willard trying to, spin things positively and say they're only 3 games behind the 6th seed. We did that stuff last year. It's not going to work out. We're barely going to make the play-in, if at all. So if you want to make a move, you got to try to live on the fringes. I don't know what the Bulls want for Vucevic, but that's a guy that I've been clamoring for on the Warriors for 5 years. Give me a little inside scoring presence. Give me something down there where we can dump it into the block, and this guy can pass it out to an open shooter. He can get a bucket on his own. But, yeah, this big swing thing to think that what are they going to get, like, shy? I mean, what type of big swing do they think is going to flip a team that's 7-17 in their last 24 games and make it, like, a contender or a top 6 seed in the West? So live on the fringes. Don't swing for the fences if that's what they're going to do. My perspective, personally, I think they're cooked in terms of competing for a title. A guy like Andrew Wiggins, who's supposed to be your number 2, and I'm not trying to, like, demean him or anything like this because family comes first. But here's a guy who any little thing that happens in his life, he is going to be taking time off. You don't think that when he has a new 1-year-old kid, he's going to be taking some time off, maybe a little less energetic, whatever the case. So the way the roster is currently constructed is not good enough. It stinks because we're a victim of our success, right? Before we had all this success, we had Monta Ellis, fan favorite. We traded him for Bogut and started this whole thing. So it's time to restart this whole thing. And as much as I hate to say it, I don't want to trade Steph Curry, but I would trade a Draymond Green. I would see what you could get for an Andrew Wiggins, who still has a good contract and maybe a lot more valuable to a team that's competing. Looney, as much as I love you, you're a 28-year-old playing in a 38-year-old's body. So, like, it's time to move on because, trying to get quote unquote, get into the dance for Curry, it's not going to be enough. And what are we? Okay, Curry got into the playoffs in 2025, and that'll go down in the annals of history. And what? He's going to lose a play-in game or, lose the first series in 6 games. So I've talked about it with you before, Spadoni. I'll let you go. But they really, realistically, to get back to the success that they've had over the last decade and do it in short order, they need to completely blow this thing up and restart. I love you, buddy. Let's have a wonderful Wednesday. And you keep it pushing this last 20 minutes. Have a good one.
Let's go. It's Chrissy out in San Jose. And I hear him on a lot of that. I do. He seems to think no big trade is worth really doing right now. His team's cooked anyways. I think that's the kind of mindset for a lot of the fans out there. If you disagree, 888-957-9570. I'll say this. They're going to say that Steph's not going to ever request a trade. But if that's the case, at some point, if you're Mike Dunleavy, do you start thinking about approaching Steph Curry and say, Steph, what would you say if we wanted to trade you? What would you say then and there? Would you take offense to that? If we're trying to, if we're going to rip the Band-Aid off entirely? Now, I just don't think what you're going to be getting in return for a guy like Steph Curry at this spot is going to be worth it. Maybe that's a stretch to say, but like realistically, you're not going to be getting, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as Chris in San Jose is saying. You're not going to be getting, Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. That's just not how it works. Steph's getting older. He's having one of the worst seasons offensively he's had in a while, while still averaging 22, 5, and 6, but it's not been his best year. So, yeah, talking about trading Stephen Curry, everyone. I do think at some point, if you started the season saying that, it would have been sacrilege. If you even uttered that word, be sacrilege. Many people might still think it is. Like, so how could you say that? But I do think it's becoming more and more common when I get callers here at 95.7 The Game calling in and saying, maybe we think about it. And that's the first step, just thinking about it. Real quick before we hit the break, let's go to Jonathan, who's on his way to work. He wants to join in the conversation. What's going on, Jonathan? You're on the pregame show.
Good morning to the GOAT, Spadone. How you doing, brother? Happy New Year.
You too, man.
I just wanted to call in with that other caller and kind of piggyback. If he doesn't mind, he's absolutely right. And I want to use a team we're all very familiar with. If you're a Bay Area fan, I'm a Sharks guy. And let me tell you, that has been some of the toughest rebuilds I've had to sit there and watch. And it wasn't just about, other teams got better and, this is just natural. There were a lot of bad trades made. And then there were a lot of savior trades, if you will. We got an EK contract, which a phenomenal defensive man just did not belong on the Sharks. I don't want to see the Warriors doing this, making some, Hail Mary trades and getting a great player who's just not fitting in the team. And I kind of see that with Steph Curry right now. We got a player that, if you love Steph and you want him to be successful and you love the Warriors, this is almost one of those things, like you said, we don't want to say, but is this best for the relationship? Is Stephen Curry, let's let him, we love him, let's let him have a team where he's competitive. And hey, and if that means that it's going to be a big change for us Warriors and we're going to have to pay that ticket, maybe, like you said, Spadone, maybe some of us are open enough to saying, hey, what can we do so we're not sitting there? Because those Sharks rebuild seasons, Spadone, those were brutal, my guy. And if the Warrior fans are having a hard time now, buckle up. It's only going to get worse, and your feelings are going to get hurt, and your pockets are going to feel like they've been stolen. So that's all I got. Let's make these trades. Let's make these changes while everyone can still get the best out of it. That's all I got for you, Spadone. You're the GOAT.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. That's Jonathan on his way to work. By the way, the Sharkies, the aforementioned Sharkies, big win yesterday, 6-3 over the Detroit Red Wings, who were super hot. They won, I think Sam said 7 in a row. So big win for the Sharkies yesterday. And they got the savior, Macklin Celebrini. But to Jonathan's point, It's going to be ugly no matter what. It's not going to be pretty after Steph leaves. And again, we're just having the conversation. I don't think he's going anywhere. We'll see. But 888-957-9570 is the number. Steve Kerr thinks it'd be irresponsible to make a big trade at this point. Do you agree with that? 888-957-9570 as we wrap up the show on the other side on 95.7 The Game.
Sports at the Art Museum. Sports at the Art Museum. I'm not saying where you do.
95-7 the game.
We're just in a really unique spot through no one's fault, by the way. This is just the reality of sports and life and, whatever. It's just had this amazing run, and we're at the tail end of it, and we're trying to hang on to it.
That was Steve Kerr on yesterday with Willard and Dibbs, and they're trying to hang on, and it's no one's fault. It's no one's fault? It's got to be someone's fault when you have arguably a top 5 player in the history of the NBA on your team, when you have one of the greatest defensive players on your team, when you still have some assets on the team, and you lose games like you did against the Toronto Raptors on Monday, who only have 9 wins on the season and they've played 40 games. No, it's someone's fault. I disagree. That's too easy of an answer, and I get it. Steve, he's not. This organization, I think, I'm not going to say they're trying to do this or they're lying to themselves, but this whole front that they have, this united front of we're all in this together, like it's High School Musical, we're all in sync and we're all one voice, one mind, one. I just think they dropped the ball in multiple off seasons, whether that's Bob Myers, whether that's Mike Dunleavy, whether that's Joe Lacob, whether that's Steve Kerr. It's a collective. If you're going to say it's a collective, then I'm blaming everybody. I'll blame Steph. I'll blame Draymond. I'm blaming everyone for the position they are in right now, which is an average team going nowhere fast. And I go back to what took place a couple seasons ago after you won a championship. Leading into that season, Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. You all know what I'm talking about. I said it then, I'll say it now. That was the moment that we're going to look back on and say, yeah, they weren't winning another title. Like, who are we kidding? Like, that's not happening. That's the moment we're all going to circle. And I know people hate to, we can't keep bringing up the punch. No, you can. Because that was the inflection point of it all. And when you refuse to punish a guy that punched his own teammate and you alienated one of your young stars, because he was a rising star on this Warriors team. Don't get it twisted. He helped that team win a title, Jordan Poole. I think we all just kind of poo-poo him. By the way, Jordan Poole, he's having a hell of a season. Oh, but it's on the Washington Wizards. Great. Washington Wizards, by the way, at least they know they stink. Warriors are kidding themselves. They're trying to act like a team that's actually kind of good, but we all know that they're not great. Wizards are 6-32. They are bad. But Jordan Poole's shooting 40% from beyond the arc this year. He's averaging 21 points, 4 assists, 43% overall. But I could use his scoring right now. I'll tell you that. Absolutely, I could use his scoring right now. And you lost him for nothing. Oh, Chris Paul, brought him in. You trade him for nothing. You don't even get him back. You don't get his slot back. So you moved off of Jordan Poole. It was a glorified salary dump. He should be on the team still. And why isn't he on the team? Because he kept Draymond instead. And it was a very difficult position for Mike Dunleavy at the time. His first year as, GM, taking over for Bob Myers, and his first order of business was, I can't have my teammates hating each other. I'm going to keep the guy that has more equity built in the organization. Sorry, Jordan Poole. See you later. Wasn't the right move. But I'm not going to sit here and blame Mike Dunleavy entirely. He had no choice because Bob Myers and Steve Kerr put him in that position. So, yeah, I go back to Myers, Lacob, Kerr, back to that summer and their inability to flex their muscles and allow Draymond to flex his. And it's been just kind of bad ever since. Burns, Fremont, he wants to join the conversation. What's going on, Burns? You're on the pregame show.
Hey, what's up, man? First of all, I want to let the Bay Area know that this is one of the hardest working, what do you call your guys yourself now? Broadcasters in the business, man.
I'll take that.
You're good. You're all over the place, and I love it, man. I absolutely love joining your conversation. Now, I'm just going to straight up, man. I'm on the other side. I'm not trading Steph or anything. And I just want to go back to the previous caller who said, "Oh, you don't know what it's like to be the Sharks." And, brother, I know what it's like to be the Sharks. Sorry, man. You might not know what it is to be a Warriors fan if you're talking like that, man. And back in the day, it was tough, man. It was tough being a Warriors fan. But what would be tougher is. I don't want to see Steph on another team, and I don't think Steph wants to be on another team. And if anybody listened to the Monty Poole talk yesterday on Friday, he says, Steph's not built like that, man. He's not built like LeBron and wants to go everywhere. He wants to do it here, and it upsets him that he can't. And so when a person like that type of person gets upset, it's just more fuel for the fire. We're hurting right now. But if you ask me going into the season, we were hurting, And I know we started off great, and I don't think that was much of a mirage. I think the team was decent, and they're playing well. And, the Mountain whoever got hurt, and it kind of blew things up. But, the whole thing is if we do get Steph into the playoffs, let him run. You never know, man. You never know. And I could live with that for the next few years. Get him some parts. If they make the run, they make the run, but keep him here, man. He wants to stay here. We want him here. And if you don't want him here, you're kind of weird. You're kind of weird because you're just all about the championships. Appreciate the championships. Don't always be, I gotta have a championship. Gotta have a championship. It's okay. It's okay to, enjoy these last few years with Steph, and we'd be okay. And him making those runs. It's okay with me. Thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Burnsy, and the nice words you had to say. Thank you. I get it. Burnsy, and there's going to be an age gap here. There is with any fan base. Listen, the whole championship culture is going to be a new thing. I don't know what generation we're on. I know I was a millennial. What Z, X, Y, L, P. I don't know what generations are after me, what they're called. Sorry. But the next generation is all going to be about the rings and about the championship and about that's what it's going to be about. Now, there's pros and cons with that. You want to have that championship mindset always. But the problem is, it's when you have seasons like this, it separates the fan base in a dramatic way. Now, we love it in media because it draws a line in the sand. Oh, this or that. Great. We can have an argument. We can have a discussion. There you go. But I hear Burnsy. He's seen the Warriors stink. He knows what it's like to be that bad. He's like, you know what? I could survive this Warriors team being average, but Steph still being on it and giving us some fun moments. I could survive that. I don't think a lot of Warriors fans can. The newer ones anyways. They're like, either Steph moves on and I'll root for him elsewhere, or you got to blow this thing up. Or make a big trade. But what's a big trade? Levine, Vucevic? Steve Kerr. Only question about Curry is, can we help him?
It's just a question of, man, this is, can we help him? Like, what can we do? I watch him still out there performing and playing at such a high level, and he's bringing so much joy to so many people, not only at Chase, but in every arena. People are so excited to see this guy play. And there's so much value in that, watching him perform. And I think our fans recognize that, understand that, and they want to see him perform for as long as possible, as they should. This guy is one of the greatest artists of all time. He's just an incredible performer, and we're all lucky to watch him play. And hopefully that's something that goes on for another few years. It sure looks like it, but in the meantime, it's a much tougher spot to be in organizationally than it was, for us even the last couple of years. And I think everyone recognizes that.
Can we help him? Can Steph help the Warriors? Not to the degree that they need him to. I don't think even if you've had prime LeBron James, prime Michael Jordan, it doesn't matter on this team, right? Prime Stephen Curry. This team is still going to be where they're at. I mean, you can't score 100 points as a team. You can't. I mean, when you get Andrew Wiggins scoring 20 points and you're losing games, that's not a good sign because that's a high watermark for him. He's not going to be scoring consistently enough. He's going to give you it on defense. He is. Scoring is going to be inconsistent. And when Stephen Curry's already been inconsistent scoring as well, at least the efficiency has not been great, you're going to struggle. Buddy Hield. Looks like Buddy Hield of old. 8 points, not good enough. Airballing, 3-pointers late in the game to tie it is not good enough. They're relying on guys like Lindy Waters III and Guy Santos. They're relying on Lindy Waters III and Guy Santos. That tells you all you need to know. All right. Bonta Hill, Joe Shasky, they're coming up next. Anthony Slater, Warriors insider here at 95.7. The Game's going to join him, as well as Steve Weish of NFL Network. Talk Brock Purdy, talk NFL playoffs. All that coming up next as I say good morning and good day to all of you. Have a good one.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco on Odyssey Sports Station. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch.